Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
We're live at the Miami Book Fair, powered by Life Improvement Radio on Authors Corner, the Total Education Network. You can go to my website, TotalTutor.org, for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. And it's going to be a fantastic day, second day of the Miami Book Fair. More and more authors to come. Eric, I know you're excited.
Very excited. We got down 20 author interviews yesterday. Let's see how many we can do today. It's going to be a fun day of talking to some great creative people.
Yes, absolutely, and we're excited to start off, and right off the bat, it's not going to be but 2 seconds later, we have someone already on the line, and I want to welcome to the program author Peter de Jonge, author of Buried on Avenue B. Peter, thanks for calling.
Thanks for talking to me, taking the time to talk to me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So how are you enjoying the Miami Book Fair so far?
Well, this is my first one, and I got here yesterday afternoon. I'm heading back to New York in a few hours, so I'm only getting a glimpse of it, but it really does seem cool.
Absolutely. So you're missing the cold weather right now in Pittsburgh. We had snow, and so I'm sure in New York it's getting cold as
really
well.
Really cold right now, apparently. Yeah.
Quick trip, but are you going to be involved in an activity at the book fair?
I'm going to be in a panel in a little while with Jeff Lindsay, the guy who wrote the books that Dexter was based on. So that should be fun.
He's an interesting guy. I interviewed him 2 years ago at the book fair. He's a really interesting character.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to meeting him.
Well, absolutely. That's what's so fun about the book fair, Peter, is that the people you get to meet that, have the same ideas or different ones, but ultimately the ultimate goal is to have a platform for your work, for your art, and that's so important, isn't it, Peter?
Yeah, no, it's. I consider myself, very lucky to be doing what I want to do, and I've been doing it for a while.
So, Peter, tell us a little about the book and what gave you the idea to write it.
Okay, I've written 2 crime novels set in Lower Manhattan. This is the second one with the same heroine. It's called Buried on Avenue B, which is one of the main streets in the East Village. And it starts when a body is dug up from one of these community gardens. Sort of sprinkled throughout the East Village are these overgrown, lush, funky gardens, and they're so overgrown that a body could be buried there without someone noticing. And the book starts when a home health aide comes into the precinct and tells my heroine that this old junkie that she's taken care of claims to have murdered someone 17 years ago and dug him and buried him in this garden. And eventually she talks people into digging it up to see what's there, and it turns out they find a completely different body, a body of a kid who was buried there 6 weeks ago. And so the book is an attempt to make sense of that premise.
And Eric, I know I enjoy mysteries and crime novels in a lot of ways, and looking at specifically how the mind of a criminal. Eric, that's pretty interesting to you, isn't it?
It really is. Those are some of my favorite storylines because it's just something you can immerse yourself in. But I like the fact that when they're placed in real life scenarios, like you said in Manhattan, you can actually feel like you're there and place yourself there, and it's just interesting how people take those real life surroundings and put them into a murder mystery.
Yeah, no, one of the strengths of the book, I think, is the real sense of that neighborhood. That's the neighborhood I lived in when I first came to the city after college, and it's changed a lot, but it's got a lot of interesting history and an interesting, it's sort of this. When I came there, it was this raw, very funky neighborhood, with a lot of sort of leftover, punk and post-punk musicians, and a lot of, it was kind of abandoned by the city. Now it's become gentrified, but there's still that sort of tension between what it was and what it's becoming that makes it one of the most interesting places in Manhattan.
Absolutely, and everyone loves New York and the mysteries of New York, and I'm sure you get a lot of inspiration from, I guess, the everyday crime in New York or the everyday mysteries that go on in New York every day, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I used to be a journalist. I used to write for magazines, and I spent a lot of time hanging out with the cops in that precinct. Before I started writing this book, I spent about 2 months with detectives in the 7th precinct, which is in the Lower East Side, and just riding around with them as if I was like a fifth cop. They didn't even introduce me as a writer, and so it's based on a lot of the details are based on things I saw and people I met.
Very, very interesting, and I find that fascinating in so many ways to kind of figure out the mind of a criminal, which I was talking about with Eric. And in ways, do you have to kind of put yourself in another character while writing?
Yeah, I mean, I try to sort of empathize with all the characters. The victims, the perps, the cops. And sort of as I'm writing about them, I look at the world, from their point of view.
What's your favorite part about doing the prep for the book? Is it right along with the police, or is it just studying the criminals? What's your favorite part of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, meeting these detectives was a lot of fun because they're people that they're still my friends, and hopefully will be my friends, forever. In terms of a lot of the stuff you got to make up. The crimes are not. The crimes in these novels are always so much more complicated, than crimes in reality. I mean, most stuff, actual crimes are solved in 48 hours, and they're not. When you write these kind of books, you go out of your way to make it absurdly complicated and hard to figure out. So the criminal part you're really making up. It's the starting point, and it's the way the cops work, and it's the way the people in the neighborhood live, and all those things are reported, but there's a lot of stuff you're making up too.
And inspiration is the everyday occurrences of the news, I'm sure, as well, right?
Yeah, that's often the starting point. Like in reality, I met a woman, a homicide detective, who came sort of the model of my heroine of both of my books, and she's a woman who had a kid when she was 14. Her name is Darlene O'Hara, and when she was a wild 14-year-old girl, that's how she got pregnant. She was like a rock and roll groupie, and she named her kid Axl Rose O'Hara because Axl Rose was her favorite rock dude at the time, and so she saddled this kid with the name Axl Rose O'Hara. So that kid is a continuing a character in both these books, and but this woman who the real live detective told me a story about a guy of just like that, where a home health aide came into homicide and said, "Hey, this guy I'm taking care of killed someone 15 years ago." And in real life, the cops wouldn't even bother to dig to find out if there was someone there, because it just was too long ago. It wasn't worth it. That it was based on the word of a junkie who, they didn't want to spend the money to dig someone up. So. But I said, my starting point was, well, what if they did dig someone up and they found someone completely different?
It's a crazy idea.
And it's something. Go ahead, Eric.
No, I'm saying that was a crazy idea. How funny would that be? I mean, not funny, but I'm saying that would just be crazy if that happened.
But then you got to figure out a way of making sense of that,
Exactly.
That was the challenge, I like that idea as a starting point, but it was really quite difficult to.
Eric,
you know what I'm saying?
Somehow something happened.
Neil, are you there? We'll go to a quick commercial break, and we'll come right back in.
Yeah, let's go to a quick commercial break. We're live at the Miami Book Fair, powered by Life Improvement Radio on Authors Corner, the Total Education Network, and some technical difficulties got us connected. That's what happens sometimes when you have Pittsburgh and St. Pete back and forth, and the international audience, and we're with Peter DeJonge, and we're having a good conversation. And the question I wanted to ask you, Peter, and then we'll go back in certain aspects, is that through writing crime novels, is this something that you see as always that kind of theme when you write from now on?
No, I'm not sure. No, I'm hoping to write some other things too. I spent a long time writing profiles and features for magazines before this, and I've written a couple other. I've written 3 novels before this with James Patterson that were very different, and so I think I'll be trying something else in the future. I might write a few more of these, but I might do something else first, and I'm not quite sure.
Quite interesting, isn't it, Eric, to see these authors and how they, it's where it takes them sometimes, and where their inspiration is.
It is, and it's really funny. I'm not trying to compare your situation to anyone else, but it's almost like you're that TV show I can't think of Castle right now. You're like that real life crime fighter or crime writer who follows the police around and learns about it, then writes books. So I think it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, no, I mean the reporting. Having been a reporter, I sort of started my fiction as a reporter too by doing the research first. Before I had any idea of what my story was, I just started hanging out with the cops, and then I kind of took it from there, sort of looking for my story at least, or looking for the start of the story.
The situation is that what you deal with is you have such a short time here in Miami. What do you hope to accomplish during the talk, getting to meet certain people and stuff like that at the event?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking to meet some interesting writers that maybe I will stay in touch with. Hoping to attract some new readers who will be intrigued by the little I tell them about the book that will make them want to check it out. That's about it, really. It's such a great place to network. You're so blown away. You got to go quickly and say, hey, introduce yourself to different people, get the connections, because there's always opportunities out there for inspiration and ultimately just friendships and writers staying together and hanging out and stuff, right? Yeah, I mean, when you're a writer, you spend a lot of time sitting around in a room by yourself, and you're pretty much grateful for every bit of human contact that comes your way, really. And something like this sort of helps you, gets you out of your room a little bit. That's one of the great things about it.
Absolutely, Peter. So where can we find more information on you, purchase your book, and learn more about you?
Well, the books are on Amazon. There's Buried on Avenue B is the newer one, and then the first one's called Shadows Still Remain. And I think you can get an electronic version of it on Kindle for an obscenely small amount of money. So it's a great deal. The feedback from people who read both of these books is, the first one was a notable book of the year by the Washington Post. They've been very well reviewed, and people like them. People who live in that neighborhood. I mean, it's particularly gratifying to me that people that I know who've been in the East Village for 30 years really like it. It really rang true to them, and they thought it was entertaining and funny as well. Please
absolutely
give it a shot if you're inclined for this kind of thing.
Absolutely, and do you have a Facebook fan page and Twitter?
I'm on Facebook, just my name. I'm not hugely, I'm not all over the internet and social media, but I'm on Facebook. Anyone who wants to friend me on Facebook, I will happily accept their Facebook friendship. Anyone who reads the book can get in touch with me, and I'll get back to them. Yeah.
Well, enjoy your time in Miami, the short time that you have, and safe travels back to New York. So thanks again for coming by.
Thanks a lot. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Okay. Keep the line open as we're waiting for our next guest. And Eric, again, we're listening live to my book fair, powered by Life Improvement Radio. You can go to my website, totaltutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, and I'm with Eric Remmel from Life Improvement Radio.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.